Hey, what's up you guys? You're watching Team APS, and in today's video, I'm going to give you my top 10 Yu-Gi-Oh! Boss monsters. Let's get started. So it's a bit of a primer for anybody who doesn't know. Boss monsters in Yu-Gi-Oh! Are those big monsters that you have to kind of work to get them out, but when you drop them, it just changes everything. And for a lot of decks, they're arguably the win condition. For other decks, it's just something that's fun to use. Not every deck has a boss monster, but the ones that do tend to be really fun. So here are mine. My number 10 is Machinae Fortress. Some people might not say this is really a boss monster because it's just so easy to kind of reuse, but it does have really high attack. But my favorite thing about it is, outside of the easy summon ability and easy reusability, is the fact that it's got an insurance effect. So if it gets targeted by a monster effect, you get to look at your opponent's hand, take a card out of it. So, you know, you're kind of guaranteed to make some sort of a plus, even if it dies. And when it's destroyed in battle, you get to pop a monster. I remember when the card first came out, and it was a huge deal because it was sort of an out to Stardust Dragon, which at the time was a really, big threat. You could run this guy into Stardust Dragon because they both had 2500 attack, and then, once you both died, Machinae Fortress got to destroy another card on the field. It was great, and then usually you could just bring Fortress right back in main phase 2 by pitching machines. And the Machina engine actually kind of became a usable thing in a lot of decks. Karakuri, certain plant variants, a lot of the machine decks later on tended to use it. Gear Gift, for example, early on used the Machina engine. And so Machinae Fortress was just always kind of one of my favorites. It was a reliable boss monster, and you could be reasonably sure that when you dropped it, it wasn't going to go without taking a piece of your opponent with it. So number 9 on the list is Divine Dragon Knight Felgrand. This is the rank 8 Xyz monster, and basically, outside of having great stats, 2800 attack, it also has an effect that has a dual purpose. You can attach and negate the effects of any card on the field, and it also becomes unaffected by other cards. And it's a quick effect, so you can use it on your opponent's turn. It doubles as protection and negation. So you can negate your opponent's monsters, like a tour guide or a monarch, or just any monster effect that they activate. Or you could also, use it on himself and he becomes saved. So you can save him from Raigeki, Bottomless, Snatch Steal, Compulse, Book of Moon, any of those crazy cards, even your opponent's monster effects, like a Felice or something like that, a Caius, I don't know. So that double protection makes him really tough to actually get off the field, and usually when a deck drops this card, it is a problem for the opponent. You can drop it, it can protect itself, it can negate their cards. It's a great thing. I love it, especially in decks like Sylvan's, where you can also bring out a few other big Xyz monsters. Good times. So number 8 on my list of boss monsters is Grand Soil, the Elemental Lord. Kind of a largely forgotten one, but Grand Soil, you drop him when you have exactly 5 Earth monsters in your grave, and then he can basically special summon a monster from either player's graveyard. This is really useful because it's a great way to make huge comebacks. You can just summon the biggest thing in your grave or the biggest thing in your opponent's graveyard. And the best part about Grand Soil is that it's very easy to drop multiple Grand Soils in a turn, as long as you get a non-Earth monster from your grave or you get a monster from your opponent's grave. So it's great to, it's a good feeling to win when you drop 2 or 3, usually just 2 though, but 2 or 3 Grand Soils, and you get just 2 really huge monsters, and suddenly you have 4 huge beat sticks, monsters that are good to get, like Gores and BLS and any Earth Synchros, things like that. It's great. Grand Soil is really good, so I enjoy him. I like using him in Psychics, but you can also use him in a few other things, so he's kind of fun to experiment with, if nothing else. Number 7 is Scrap Dragon. Little did they know, I think, when they made Scrap Dragon, that he would be basically one of the best staple synchros. In the Scrap deck, he's incredibly useful because, you actually get his recycling effect when he dies, pretty much guaranteed. And also, if you pop a Scrap monster on your side of the field, you will always be getting back, cards from that. So it's great support for the deck it's actually made for. But also, in just any deck, it's always been a useful boss monster, really high stats, and also just an easy, instant spot removal type effect. It's really useful. And I think it's going to pretty much be a staple in Yu-Gi-Oh! For years to come. I mean, just as level 8 synchros go. Number 6 is Elemental Hero Absolute Zero. So when this card first came out, it was actually really tough to get a hold of because I think it debuted in a manga and it was kind of hard to get your hands on. But then the card got reprinted, which was great. My favorite thing about Absolute Zero is he has one of the best insurance effects, I like to call them. When he dies, you blow up your opponent's field, and that's when he leaves the field. So, I mean, if you tribute him or sync with him and all that different kind of stuff. You get to like nuke field. It's incredible. I actually really like it. And it was usually pretty easy to bring out in Heroes. And this was kind of before the Shining. So for the longest time, you know, you wanted to play a hero build that just ran heroes and water monsters, and you can make Absolute Zero really easily. And there are always fun locks. Like when you have like Absolute Zero plus Stardust on your side of the field, great times. Really loved it. I had a friend actually who, when this card was recently released, made sort of a Diva Synchro deck with like Malicious, Diva, Plague Spreader, and like Diamond Dude and things like that, and basically would drop Stardust and Absolute Zero at the same time and set something like Mirror Force. And it was extremely tight lock to get out of, at the time at least. So number 5 is Mulan Glacia, the Elemental Lord, another Elemental Lord on my list. Mulan Glacia is great because if anybody knows me, you know that I really like card advantage. More than that, I really like getting rid of my opponent's card advantage. I just love erasing cards from their board. Even if it isn't the best thing to do at the time, I will always take the opportunity to get rid of cards in their hand, get rid of their back row, things like that. So Glacia fits in perfectly with that. She discards it. I assume it's a she. Discards 2 cards from your opponent's hand when she's summoned. It's really incredible because in Mermails, when they first dropped, it was a huge card in that. But also, you know, there are other decks that can use it. A lot of like frog variants, Lancer Frogs, for example, can really use and abuse Mulan Glacia because, you know, if you like use her effect, you can then use like something like Swap Frog to bounce it back to the hand and next turn drop it again and just tear cards from your opponent's side of the field. It can get really nasty. So number 5. Number 4 is Light and Darkness Dragon. I think a lot of people like this card. Newer players might not even really know what it is, but Light and Darkness Dragon, just for a long time before they errated it, kind of just negated everything, or at least that's what people thought. But now they realize it can only work once in a chain. But anyway, important parts. Light and Darkness Dragon, good stats, negates a lot of stuff. Basically, when you drop it, you're kind of guaranteed to plus. You're guaranteed to make your opponent waste at least 2 cards getting rid of this thing. They have to like double chain something like a Fiendish and a Compulse or a Book and a whatever, you know, to get rid of it without, you know, that's like the easiest way to get rid of it. And if they don't have that, then sometimes they're just left to scoot. If you drop this thing late game or just kind of at the right time, you can effectively seal games. And when you're playing decks like Frogs, they can just drop it really easily, but there are other decks that can use it too. It's great. I love dropping the card. It feels so good. It's like you win the game right there. Number 3 is Mecha Phantom Beast Draco Sack. Super popular card in Dragon Roller times. Still one of my favorites. The fact that he kind of functions like a scrap dragon with protection is incredible to me. For the longest time, I actually hated this card because it was used against me so much in the Dragon Ruler days, but I've grown to like it because, I mean, when you use it, it's really useful. You detach, you make your 2 tokens, he can't be destroyed while there's a token in the field, and then you distribute off a token to pop a card. It's incredible, and you can use that twice. So even after popping a card, he's immune to destruction, which can make it really tough for your opponent to actually destroy him in battle because they have to aim for the token first, then aim for him, and most decks at the time didn't really have the resources to be able to put that much on the board and get rid of it that easily. So I really like Draco Sack. It's a good safety to go into because although Big Eye is cool, like it's kind of the other popular rank 7, Draco Sack was sort of the safe solution, so that's why I liked him. And if you actually drop him in the Mecha Phantom Beast deck, he is incredible because you will always have tokens, you will always be able to like stack off tokens, he will always be protected. He like puts in 110% when he's actually used in his own deck. Number 2 is Dark Arm Dragon. So kind of the premier boss monster for a long time and a huge component of Teledad and Dark Arm Return before it. Dark Arm, just incredible card, really scary when it drops, even today in decks like Shadal's. You just have to have 3 dark monsters in your grave, you drop him, and your opponent gets a little scared because they didn't see it coming. That's the best time, I think, to drop him, is when your opponent is just sort of worrying about your other stuff, they forget you have 3 darks in the grave, boom, Dark Arm Dragon. It's scary. It just pops cards in the field, one at a time. So there was a time when, you know, Starlight Road became popular, for example, but Starlight Road couldn't be used against Dark Arm Dragon because it just pop, one at a time. It's a really scary card. It has really great stats, and it was just honestly really oppressive. You are always afraid of it. and God forbid they drop 2 of them on you. And my number 1 favorite boss monster in the game is XX Saber Gotems, because I love XX Sabers. I love X Sabers. They're my favorite deck. Anybody who knows me knows that. And that Gotems loot. Enough said. So those are my 10 favorite Yu-Gi-Oh! Boss monsters, but I'd like to also hear from you guys. What are your favorite Yu-Gi-Oh! Boss monsters, and why? I know there are a lot of popular ones that didn't make this list. Arc Lord Christia, Blackluster Soldier, and there are some lesser known ones like, Dark Samore, things like that. So let me know what your favorite boss monsters are in the description. And if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends, show some kind of way that you like the video, I don't know. And subscribe for more great Yu-Gi-Oh! Content. I will catch you guys later. See ya.